5 spine-chilling wilderness horrors revealed. Discover terrifying encounters and cursed secrets. Lisa's knees shook as she stepped onto the creaky porch. She could feel the eyes of the universe watching. Everything about the woods just beyond her backyard felt wrong, the pines looming like ancient sentinels guarding dark secrets. Stay away from the woods. The phrase echoed in her mind, a warning scrawled in frantic lettering that had chilled her spine. 3 months since her husband disappeared into those very trees, weeks devoted to school lunches and juggling 2 lively daughters, Emma and Mia. Yet, the weight of her loss clung to her like a shadow. And now this ominous note's left at her door. Deluding herself with the thought that it was just local kids playing pranks, she crumpled the notes in frustration, whispering to her girls that everything was okay, even as the chill crept down her spine. She didn't want them to see her fear, didn't want them to know how she felt the woods were swallowing the air, thick with dread. As dusk wrapped their home in gritty shadows, the line between reality and nightmares blurred like clouds rolling in before a storm. But unease grew. Neighbors' smiles turned brittle, conversations froze upon her approach. "Have you heard about the cursed forest?" they whispered, their glances darting away like guilty children. It was an urban legend that sent chills through the town, speaking of hikers lost forever, their souls entwined with vengeful spirits hungry for the unwary. As she walked with her daughters down flower-lined streets, the whispers followed her, teasing the hairs on the back of her neck. The first sign was Emma's voice, quaking with undiluted fear. "Mommy, there's something in my window." Shadows, dark and twisting, swirled just beyond her eyesight. Lisa dismissed it at first, attributing it to overactive imagination, but soon Mia began to speak of unsettling whispers at night, haunting echoes that lured her from sleep. Each mention echoed a lineage of terror, a nightmare woven into the very fabric of her town, a tapestry Lisa did not want her daughters to stitch. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." When Lisa stumbled upon that dusty scrapbook, heart pounding, she felt the ground shift beneath her. The pages, filled with terrible headlines of missing persons, were setting her world aflame. There, in eerie black and white, was her husband's face, a haunting smile, frozen forever in time. The familiar weight of sorrow returned, swallowing her resolve. Determined, Lisa took a breath and steeled herself. Beyond the backyard lay an unknown terror, one she had to confront. With her daughters asleep and the town cloaked in a ghostly hush, she ventured towards the woods, driven by a fierce love. The trees towered as she prowled deeper into the dimness, where echoes rattled like chains. The air chilled around her, thickening with dread, until a sudden rustle split the silence. Her heart raced as she froze, eyes scanning the murky shadows. An outline emerged, familiar yet distant. As it stepped closer, the truth hung in the air like a storm cloud, and Lisa's breath caught in her throat. What or who was lying in wait? The figure stepped into the light that trickled down through the dense canopy, revealing a face she recognized yet could scarcely comprehend. It was him, her husband, David. But there was something off. His skin looked pallid, his eyes void of warmth, as if the soul that once illuminated them had fled. "Lisa," he whispered, the name barely escaping his lips, sending icy tendrils of disbelief coursing through her. She wanted to run, but her feet remained rooted to the ground, ensnared by a web of confusion and dread. "David!" She fought to find her voice, desperation clawing at her throat. "Where have you been?" "Woods can't escape." The words slurred together, a tortured echo that vibrated in the stillness around them. Lisa's heart thudded loudly, each beat punctuating the tension thick in the air. "Don't come closer," she warned, backing away, her instincts screaming for her to get away from this shell of a man. She had waited for him, hoped against hope, but now he stood in front of her not as the loving husband she cherished, but as a twisted reflection marred by something unfathomable. "Lisa, help!" His voice cracked, a breathy plea that tugged on her heartstrings. Images of their family life flashed through her mind, laughter, warmth, bedtime stories that felt like ancient memories. But now, as the pale shadow of him loomed nearer, the laughter felt faded, haunted by darkness. "Stay away from the woods." The haunting words of the local whispers materialized in her mind, echoing ominously against the backdrop of her growing horror. "Please, you don't understand." The air between them grew charged, heaviness enveloping her as if the very trees conspired against her. He let me. A sudden gust of wind rushed between them, and Lisa flinched, drawing her gaze back to the silhouette of the trees. They appeared to sway and writhe, casting dark shapes that bent logic and threatened her sanity. "Who let you?" she whispered, fighting against the rising tide of fear. He looked beyond her, his eyes widening with terror. "He coming!" Before she could react, something shifted behind David. The darkness coalesced, morphing into a distinct figure, a grotesque shape that glided silently through the underbrush. "Get away from him!" Lisa shouted, panic igniting her voice. David's expression crumbled into something desperate, yet all at once fierce. "Run, Lisa! You have to get the girls!" The warning hung in the humid air, saturated with dread. Fear gripped her heart as she turned her back on her husband, the primal instinct for survival propelling her forward deeper into the cursed abyss from which he spoke of. But the sounds of pursuit filled the woods, a cacophony of whispers intertwining with her frantic breaths. The very trees seemed alive, stretching out twisted branches like skeletal hands, trying to ensnare her as she darted through the underbrush. "Mommy!" A voice screamed from deep within the forest, chilling her blood. It was Emma, wailing with a mixture of fear and despair that rattled her composure. "Help me!" Lisa's stomach twisted. They should have never come here. The legend whispered of lost souls where light and dark spiraled into madness. And now, her daughter's cries echoed through the trees, seeping into her very core, urging her toward an unthinkable choice. A hand brushed against her arm, cold as death, making her gasp. She turned to confront whatever horror awaited. But when she looked back, David was gone. Only shadows remained, flickering, consuming her world in darkness. What if she didn't reach them in time? What if something in the woods wanted them all? The choking dread enveloped her, and she raced into the heart of the forest, where chaos and suspense awaited behind every twisted trunk and shadowy corner. But somewhere deep within her heart, a flicker of defiance ignited. She would find her girls and face whatever terror lay ahead. What had the woods taken from them this time? With the whispers of the lost echoing in her ears, she pushed forward, compelled to uncover the truth lurking just beyond sight. As she ventured deeper, she could not shake the feeling that the trees themselves were watching, waiting for her next move. Would she be able to save her daughters, or would she fall victim to the very darkness that had robbed her of her husband? Time was running out. The air turned heavy as Lisa plunged deeper into the woods. The wails of her daughters cut through the silence like a knife, sharp and raw, sending shivers racing down her spine. Each step felt like a heartbeat, echoing against the stillness, the kind of silence that amplified the rustle of leaves and the snap of twigs underfoot. She fought against the mounting fear that clawed at her throat. They were out there somewhere, Emma and Mia. She had to find them. "Stay close," she called, trying to mask the panic threatening to spill over. "I'm coming." But her own voice felt hollow, just another whisper lost in the tangled depths of the forest. The shadows shifted, playing tricks on her mind, teasing her with glimpses of movement. Something felt wrong, an energy that made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. A breeze rustled the leaves, but it carried no safety. Instead, it felt like cold fingers trailing against her skin. "Mommy!" Emma's voice echoed again, this time mingled with Mia's frightened cries. It was a chorus of misery that twisted like a knife in Lisa's gut. She picked up her pace, her heart racing, her legs threatening to falter. Suddenly, the underbrush gave way to a clearing, a sea of moonlight illuminating a sizable stone altar. Why was there an altar here? Panic surged anew. The old legends of the forest danced before her eyes, stories she had brushed aside, bedtime tales she had shared with Emma and Mia. Sacrifices. offerings to a darkness that resided deep in the woods. "Mommy!" They could be close, she needed to move fast. As she stepped into the clearing, the temperature plummeted. A low growl rolled like thunder in the distance, vibrating in her bones. She spun around, scanning the perimeter for any sign of life, her daughters, any glimmer of hope. Shadows flitted between the trees like smoke, each dark form merging into the next, whispering secrets she could not comprehend. Something rustled behind her, breaking through the foreboding sense of dread. She twisted around, heart hammering against her ribcage. A small figure stumbled out from behind a tree, streaked with dirt and leaves. It was Emma, clutched tightly in Mia's arms. "Mommy!" Emma screamed, launching toward Lisa, who knelt down to catch her with open arms. They fell into each other, and Lisa felt the weight of her child flooding her with relief. But it was cut short as she glanced over Emma's shoulder. Mia's face was twisted in terror, eyes wide as she pointed back into the shadows. "He's coming!" The air buzzed with a dreadful energy as the surrounding darkness began to coalesce. Figures emerged from the shadows, their bodies twisted and grotesque, features lost to the dark. They weren't human anymore. Lisa's breath hitched. "Run!" she shouted, grabbing her girls by the arms, the three of them breaking away from the clearing, sprinting into the tangled web of trees. But the growling presence followed, closer and closer, each step heavier, thudding against the earth like a death knell. The path twisted and turned, branches clawing at her as though trying to drag her back, pulling her down into the depths of despair. "Mommy! They're coming!" Emma shrieked, and Lisa felt the ground beneath their feet start to shake. "Don't look back," she urged, focusing only on their escape, on the pulse of her daughter's heartbeats entwined with her own. Shadows reached for them, grasping, clawing, always just an inch away from snagging their flesh, and as the darkness closed in, a familiar voice broke through the chaos. David's voice called out through the mayhem. "Lisa! Help me!" The words twisted like a dagger in her heart. He was lost. Perhaps already a part of whatever haunted these woods. Could she turn back? The question tore at her. Could she risk it? But when the shadows screamed his name in unison, she could no longer tell where the horror began or ended. "Mommy, please!" Emma cried, fear suffocating the air. Would she sacrifice her girls for the man who stood as a shadow of his former self? A new presence emerged in the chaos, one that felt sharper, darker. It loomed ever closer, and as Lisa glanced back, she felt the air chill. What was chasing them could soon become more than just a vapor of fear. What if it wanted more than just David? With each hasty footstep, she plunged into the horrors of the forest, and deeper into her own nightmare. What awaited them at the edge of the woods? The shadows thickened around them, a suffocating veil that swallowed sound and light. Lisa tightened her grip on Emma and Mia, their small bodies trembling in her arms as they raced deeper into the forest. Every rustle of leaves or snap of branches felt like a warning, and the low growl behind them echoed like the heartbeat of the darkness. It grew louder, more insistent, wrapping around them like a predator closing in on its prey. "Mia, run faster!" Lisa urged, fear clawing at her throat. The forest felt alive, every gnarled branch and twisted tree reaching out, as if to keep them tethered to the horror they were escaping. Suddenly, a flash of light pierced the gloom ahead. A flicker, then gone. Was it an end? Or were the shadows simply teasing them, leading them deeper? The growl morphed into a guttural chant, voices melding, piercing the air with a sick enchantment that prickled the skin and sent waves of nausea crashing over her. "Mommy, what's that?" Emma whimpered, voice strained and terrified. "Keep moving!" Lisa shouted, but dread filled her heart. She had to keep the girls focused, had to keep them going. But what if the light was nothing but a trap? Doubt gnawed at her as they stumbled forward, the ground shifting beneath their feet, each step a descent further into the unknown. The light flashed again, stronger this time, illuminating a narrow path through the trees. Lisa felt a surge of hope but fought against the instinct to linger. "Look at me," she ordered, forcing her gaze to remain fixed on her daughters. "We can do this. Just a little further." But as they pressed on, An icy shadow scraped against her neck, and she shivered, breath hitching. The growling morphed into whispers woven with her name, weaving through the branches like a predator's breath. "Mommy!" Mia cried, her voice rising in panic. Lisa's heart plummeted. She had to shield them body and soul from the grasping darkness. With each frantic look back, she felt pieces of her resolve slip away, the fear bubbling hot in her chest. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she caught sight of a figure standing at the edge of the clearing ahead. A tall silhouette against the backdrop of moonlight, unmoving yet overwhelmingly present. Was it David? David? She whispered, hope igniting in her chest. But as they drew closer, the distant figure twisted unnaturally, almost flowing like smoke. It was something else, a disturbance in the fabric of the forest. Shivers traced down her spine. Whatever it wasn't human anymore. "Mommy, it doesn't look right," Emma whimpered, clutching at her tightly. Lisa felt the undercurrent of dread swell as they approached. And then, impossibly, the figure spoke, its voice hollow, carrying an echo of David's, yet utterly devoid of warmth. Lisa come home. An electric jolt of fear shot through her body. "Run!" Lisa yelled, thrusting her daughters forward, breaking their moment of hesitation. As they scurried past the clearing, the shadows closed in, elongating, stretching out as if trying to grab hold of them. The growling was intoxicating, alive and powerful, spilling over into her thoughts, wrapping around her mind like ivy. Just as they were about to cross the boundary into the next thicket, Lisa suddenly felt a hand cold as ice, grasping her arm. "Mommy!" Emma screeched, but Lisa couldn't breathe, the terror freezing her in place, body locked as if caught in a web spun from pure dread. The shadows began to swirl, the forest howled, and the darkness drew closer, eager to encase them all. The last thing Lisa saw before the shadows began to close and was the familiar face of her husband. Was he truly calling her back? What had he become? As everything dissolved into a cacophony of screams and shrieks, she realized she stood at the crossroads of her choices: the path to her daughter's future or a return to the past that may have already devoured him. What would she choose when the light began to fade? The grip on Lisa's arm tightened painfully. She could feel the darkness swirling around them, a tangible entity hungry for warmth and life. Panic surged through her as she attempted to shake off the icy fingers clamping down on her, but they wouldn't relent. It felt as if the shadows had taken on a life of their own, pulling her into their embrace. "Mia! Emma!" she shouted, but her voice was swallowed by the growling chorus of whispers. The forest chanted her name, taunting her, and she could taste the rancid scent of despair, seeping through the cracks of her sanity. The vision of David wavered, or was it just a trick of the darkness? Her heart raced. Was he truly out there, waiting, or had the forest twisted his image yet again into something grotesque? Without thinking, Lisa ripped free from the icy grasp and sprinted into the thicket, the girls in tow. Their small feet pounded the damp earth, a frantic symphony against the backdrop of creaking branches and hissing shadows. They stumbled into a denser part of the forest, where visibility was reduced to mere feet. A creeping fog curled around their ankles, insistent, pulling like an unseen hand trying to drag them below. "Keep going! Don't look back!" Lisa urged, forcing herself to run faster than ever. Each heartbeat felt like a clock ticking down, a countdown towards inevitable doom. But her daughters were already slumping with exhaustion, fear written across their tiny faces. The hollow voice echoed again, a haunting reflection that made her blood run cold. Lisa come home. It blended with the noises of the forest, as if the entire world was joining in for a sinister hymn. Suddenly, the ground beneath them gave a sharp lurch, and Lisa stumbled, catching herself just in time. "Mia! Emma! Stick close!" she cried, trying to keep her fears at bay, but they were there, gnawing at her resolve. The flicker of the distant light returned, pulsing through the heaviness of the fog. Was it an escape, or just another illusion meant to coax them deeper into the abyss? "Mommy, it hurts." Mia's small voice trembled, and Lisa's heart twisted. She didn't know how much longer they could run. But the growls behind them seemed to intensify, urging them forward like a beast chasing its prey. "Just a bit farther," Lisa begged, though she felt the emptiness at the pit of her stomach grow heavier. The moment felt endless. The thick mist consumed her thoughts, twisting them into something fragile. With every step, they were pulled deeper into the unknown, and then came a high-pitched wail, echoing through the trees. It wasn't just an animal, or even a human. It was something more, a resonant tone that vibrated in her bones, chilling her to the core. The air thickened, and then, in the silence that followed, Lisa felt it a shift, a pressing weight that bore down on them. In the darkness ahead, shadows began to shift, elongating into threatening shapes, taking form and movement. She didn't dare look. Instinctively, she shielded her daughters, but terror gripped her heart as the shadows danced along the edges of her peripheral vision. Muffled voices rose and fell, weaving together like a broken lullaby. The light flickered again, drawing her gaze. This time, it pulsed with an urgency, revealing what lay within the circle of its glow. Shapes clawed at the air, desperate and hungry. Were they lost souls trying to escape, or creatures bound under ancient curses? "Mommy!" Emma screamed, pulling at her sleeve, panic erupting in her voice. Lisa turned, eyes wide, just as the unmistakable figure appeared in the flickering light. David, but twisted and void of humanity. "Come to me," he beckoned, a smile that didn't reach his eyes, the shadows swirling eagerly around him. With a primal scream, Lisa grabbed both girls, tugging them into a dash sprint blind into the unknown, the pulse of the forest rising to a desperate clamor behind them. Would it be enough? In the chaos, Lisa yelled over the rising din, "Whatever you do, don't look back." But even as she said it, the chilling laughter rang out, echoing her husband's name in a taunting rhythm that made the trees tremble. What awaited them in the light ahead? Would it be salvation or a deeper descent into madness? One thing was certain, the darkness would not let them go without a fight. As they pressed on, racing against the shadows, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that something far worse than death lurked in the fog behind them. The earth heaved beneath them again, sending jolts of terror through Lisa's bones. Each step sent vibrations shooting up her legs. The ground seemed alive, breathing its dark breath. The light flickered, more erratic now, desperation clinging to it like fog. "Mia! Emma! Stay close!" Lisa hissed through clenched teeth, fear trying to break her voice. The air around them felt thick, as if it were slathered in dread. The forest bellowed, branches snapping like bone, its whispers weaving tales of despair. "Mama, I can't run anymore," Mia sobbed, her tiny hands trembling against Lisa's grip. "Just a little longer," Lisa urged, her heart clawing at the walls of her chest. What would happen if they stopped? What awaited them if they surrendered? She fought back the wave of despair washing over her. Ahead, the flickering light pulsated, gaining momentum as they scrambled closer. It felt magnetic, drawing her in, offering hope like a moth to a flame. But her instincts screamed louder. It could all be a trap. From behind, the shadows closed in, a seething mass of darkness that promised only horror. They weren't alone. The whispers morphed into laughter, deep, throaty cackles filled with malice. The shadows stretched, elongating to claim her girls. "Run!" Lisa yelled, propelling them forward. The girls had no choice but to follow, their small legs straining against the pull of fatigue and fear. As they neared the light, the ground suddenly dropped, a hidden pit yawning wide beneath their feet. "No!" Lisa shrieked, her heart crashing. She barely caught Mia's arm, but Emma tumbled, screaming down into the abyss. "Emma?" Desperation clawed at her throat as she reached for her, hand just missing the grip she needed. Emma vanished, swallowed by dark, silent depths. "Mama! Help me!" Emma's voice echoed, distant yet piercing. Lisa's gut twisted as turmoil surged within her. She felt roots clawing at her feet, sensing the forest tightened its grip, urging her to relent. "Mia, we have to go!" Lisa barked, pulling her daughter away from the edge. The shadows were almost tangible now, their claws scraping against the ground in a wicked dance. With her heart racing and instincts screaming, she pushed Mia ahead, racing further into the undergrowth, but her mind was torn. Should they keep running? Shouldn't they go back for Emma? A sickening thump echoed a warning? Or invitation? Lisa pressed forward, but doubt clawed at her. The overwhelming urge to look back gnawed at her resolve. Mama, where's Emma? Mia's quivering lip brought Lisa's heart to a grinding halt. The cold realization settled over her. How could she explain the unexplainable? Mia, listen, she forced the words out, panic spiking in her throat. I'm going to find Emma. You have to stay here. No! Mia screamed, her panic echoing off the trees. I'm coming with you. Safe. Lisa insisted, knowing the way to protect her was to shield her from the darkness. But Mia wasn't listening, her eyes wide with fear and defiance. That's when the growl returned, deeper and more threatening, a predator behind them, biding its time, enjoying their plight. Get ready, Lisa whispered urgently, heart hammering against her ribs. We run on 3, 1, 2, an earth-shattering roar ripped through the forest. The shadows surged forth, and the darkness seemed alive, hungry for them. Lisa's breath caught, a raw scream of terror clawing its way up her throat. Run! They bolted, the breaking of twigs beneath their feet the only sound in the storm of terror. Panic swirled, the impending sensation of something on their heels. What was left waiting for them? Would they encounter salvation or a fate worse than death? And then, in the fray of fear, came the sickening sensation that perhaps the darkness was not merely a thing to escape, but a force that desired something far deeper than their lives. As they reached a clearing, the light poured in, stark and blinding. The shadows hung back, restless. In that moment of uncertainty, a chilling thought crept into Lisa's mind: what if they had already been marked? Soon, Lisa would have to confront the only question left: what price would she pay for her daughter's survival in this wicked forest? The clearing opened wide, swallowing them in its blinding light, but it felt more like a trap than a refuge. Lisa squinted against the brightness, clutching Mia's hand tightly. They were momentarily free from the shadows, but the air crackled with an unresolved tension that hung like a storm cloud ready to erupt. Mama, Mia whispered, her gaze darting around the perimeter of the clearing. What if they come here? They won't, Lisa lied, forcing a confident smile that didn't reach her eyes. We're safe now. But deep inside, dread churned like an angry sea. Emma's voice, her laughter, her cries still echoed in the hollow of Lisa's mind. The shadows swirled behind them, tentacles of darkness waving at the edge of the light. She felt them, lurking, waiting. The moment stretched, each heartbeat an amplified thud, and then a slithering whisper snaked through the air. Lisa. Her muscles froze, the voice cold and familiar, slithering around her heart like a vice. Emma? Lisa called, the name tearing through her throat. Her heart raced at the horrified realization that it wasn't just a distant memory she heard. No, this voice was real, thrumming with an unsettling life of its own. Mama, help me! Emma's cries echoed again, desperate, pleading from somewhere deeper within the forest's grasp. The horror of what might lie in wait clawed at her mind. Mia, stay here! Lisa shouted, unwilling to lose another child. But fear flickered in Mia's eyes, a reflection of her own terror. No! I'm coming with you! Mia's tiny hand slipped from Lisa's grasp, and before she could reach out, the child dashed forward towards the sound. Mia! Lisa screamed, lunging forward to catch her, but a dark, boiling mist erupted from within the shadows, wrapping around her, pulling her back. It was icy, suffocating, a malevolent force, snatching at her limbs with fingers of despair. The darkness roared again, and Mia's silhouette shifted, flickering like a candle threatened by a gust of wind. Mom! Help! What are you doing? Lisa felt herself screaming, panic erupting into full force. The shadows coiled tighter, their grip muting her sobs. Mama, please! Mia's voice splintered, desperation igniting within her tiny frame. The mist surged forward, a wave of despair, moving to engulf Mia. Lisa tore at the air, her heart racing as she found her voice a wild, primal scream that shattered the silence. No! Mia! Get back! Time slowed, the shadows twisted, revealing glimpses of eyes dull, hungry, and forever wanting. With a desperate push against the darkness, Lisa struggled forward, her body threatening to collapse under the weight of both sorrow and terror. "Mia, please! Hold on! I'm coming!" But as she moved, the shadows transformed, crawling and writhing like a living creature, pulling her deeper into their embrace. Each step was a clawing reminder of how close despair was, tantalizingly close. In a moment of maddening clarity, she knew that the darkness was not just something to fight against, it thrived on fear, feeding on her panic. With a sudden flare of defiance, Lisa's feet dug into the ground. She let the fear wash over her but refused to yield. "Get away from my girls!" she shouted, the commanding tones startling the shadows. The wind rose, catching eddies of light from the moon above, illuminating the faces twisted in pain among the shadows. They looked like her, lost and drowning in despair. But she was stronger. "Mama!" The cry brought her back sharply, and with a renewed sense of urgency, she surged toward the flickering edge of light where Mia stood, trembling but fierce. But then, a sudden shifting of that very light froze her in place. The clearing warped, the trees surrounding them twisting into grotesque versions of their former selves, branches reaching down like gnarled fingers. What was this place? What horrors did it harbor? The realization struck her with a cold flint in her heart. This was not a sanctuary. It was a hunting ground, and just when she dared to hope, a shadow shifted behind Mia, darker than the rest. "Run!" Lisa screamed, fear crashing through her like a tidal wave as the darkness converged once more, ready to claim what it sought. As they fled, Lisa's mind raced. What had really happened to Emma? Was she truly lost, or was she ensnared in this world of nightmares? And as the forest closed in around them, its twisted whisper echoed back, like a sinister promise they were the prey, and this was only the beginning. What was waiting for them deeper in this darkness? Would they discover a way out, or would the forest swallow them whole? The ground trembled beneath Lisa's feet, the very earth shifting as though eager to swallow them alive. The shadows loomed larger, dark tendrils stretching like grasping hands, eager to snatch what little hope remained. She turned her head, a frenzied look back at Mia, who stumbled on the uneven ground, her bright eyes wide with terror, reflecting the chaotic darkness behind them. "Mia, keep going!" Lisa yelled, urgency propelling her forward, but the shadows shrieked, their anguished wails intertwining with the cries for help. Emma's cries resonated hollowly. The haunting mix of despair and panic sent chills racing down her spine. "Stay with me!" Each step felt like wading through molasses, time stretching and contorting as the whispers grew louder, each syllable a dagger aimed at Lisa's sanity. "Mama, come, join us!" The voice was Emma's, yet twisted, a cruel mockery that licked at her resolve. "Mama!" Mia grasped at Lisa's hand, her grip fluttering under the growing pressure of the encroaching fog. "What is happening?" "I don't know." Lisa's voice cracked, panic injecting every word as she dragged her daughter forward. With every frantic breath, the air thickened, wrapping around her like a shroud. A sapling stretched out toward her, twisting and screeching, its bark morphing into a grisly visage of pain. She let out a strangled cry, yanking Mia closer, moving faster. They could see the light ahead, a distant glimmer that teased them with promises of safety. But could they reach it? The ground beneath wobbled like an illusion, rolling in tandem with the rumbles of the shadows behind. "We're almost there," Lisa urged, though her heart sank. With every stride, the darkness behind them prowled. "Mama!" Mia's voice quivered, the fear crystal clear. "The trees!" Lisa glanced back. The trees swayed unnaturally, their branches twisting as if alive, the roots curling and writhing, encircling as though preparing to ensnare them. Shadows slithered across the forest floor, rippling like a disturbed lake. "Mia, run!" With a burst of adrenaline, she pushed her daughter ahead, bounding forward. They surged toward the edge of light. The shadows would not claim them, not today, but the air, the very atmosphere, felt electrified. Just as they brushed the edge of warmth and hope, a massive shape surged out from the trees, a creature from one of Lisa's nightmares. Black as coal, with eyes glimmering like molten steel, it blocked their path, a monstrous silhouette promising endless suffering. "Mama!" Mia screeched, frozen by terror. "No, no!" Lisa's frantic breaths turned desperate. She felt her heart racing in time with the deafening thud of the creature's heartbeat. Was it Emma's breath she heard among its growls? Mia! She shouted, forcing herself to move closer, shaking with raw fear. Trust me. We can do this. In that moment of absolute panic, time distorted. The shadows danced and laughed, pulling her into a whirlwind of a memory of life before darkness. Emma's laughter, soft and sweet, erupted in her mind, blending with the chaos. But then the creature darted toward them, careening with inhuman speed, shadows trailing like a cloak. Run! She screamed again, urgency breaching the heavy air, propelling them forward, but her limbs felt heavy. She wanted to turn, to face it, but could she? Rushing thuds of an incalculable heartbeat pressed against her ears, drowning out rational thought. The forest seemed to shift around them, the boundary merging between the tainted darkness and the refuge of light. In one desperate leap, they breached the threshold, but the shadows roared behind them, echoing a promise of despair. Suddenly, Mia stumbled and fell. Mama! The darkness recoiled, hungry, and Lisa's heart dropped, pounded, threatening rupture. With one frantic glance, despair clawed at her throat, choking out hope. Mia, get up! Please! But then the light flickered, glimmers painting the trees with false hope. It wasn't over. Shadows still lurked, unrelenting, waiting to ensnare them once more. As Lisa reached for Mia, a pale figure flickered in the distance. Half-formed, barely recognizable. Help us, it whispered, a familiar voice caught in the smothering darkness. Lisa's breath stalled, uncertainty flooding her mind. What awaited them beyond the light? An escape, or something more sinister? Would she lose her daughter to the shadows lurking just beyond reach? Mama! Mia shrieked again, panic mottling her voice. The figure in the distance morphed, momentarily revealing a face. It was Emma's, but twisted, as if the shadows had devoured her essence, leaving behind a hollow shell. Mama, help us! Lisa shook her head violently, willing the sight away. It's not real, Mia! It's a trick! But the illusion held, pulling at her heart like gravity. The shadows writhed, taunting, their whispers sliding into her mind like sleet against bare skin. Join us, free us, Mama! Mia trembled, her small body quaking against the elements. What if it is her? No! Lisa's voice thundered across the eerie silence, fierce and protective. We have to go! She snatched Mia's arm, hauling her to her feet. Gritting her teeth, Lisa lifted her chin. We don't have time for this. We have to keep moving. They sprinted ahead, shadows snapping at their heels, each step echoing with the thundering heartbeat that seemed to surround them, suffocating and suffused with terror. The flicker of light ahead sparked hope anew. What if the light held safety? Or was it another deception? Lisa's heart pounded in her chest, quickening with every echo of the mournful cries that twisted through the trees. Don't look back! She shouted, forcing herself to maintain her resolve. Keep running, keep shouting if you need to. But Mia remained silent, her eyes darting, catching glimpses of horrors clawing toward them. The monstrous shape spread behind, smothering the woods with its presence, throbbing greedily, reveling in their fear. Faster! Lisa urged, channeling every ounce of will into her limbs, ignoring the exhaustion swelling in her muscles. The very air thickened, suffocating. A sharp, strident howl shattered the night, a sound that sounded human and inhuman all at once, a cacophony of desire and despair. It reverberated, piercing through the trees, making Lisa's very bones hum with terror. Mama! Mia was struggling to keep pace, her breathing uneven, soft cries clawing from her throat. I can't, just a little more. We're almost there. Lisa pleaded, her voice raw. Together they pressed forward, hearts racing, the darkness threatening to close in. The pain that wedged itself in her chest felt monstrous. She could almost feel Emma's presence, half-felt warmth against her skin. Mama! It was a soft whisper now, not from Mia, but from the shadows, the echo of a long-lost ghost, tangled in a net of sorrow. I'm waiting. Lisa shook her head vehemently, desperately looking around, searching for anything but those haunted words. Suddenly, the trees erupted with movement. Twisted bark contorted, faced with grinning mouths filled with jagged teeth. Their roots jerked and lashed out, swiping at her legs. "Look out!" she screamed, diving sideways, yanking Mia with her. They tangled, rolling across the forest floor, heartbeats syncopating into the menacing rhythm of the darkness hungry around them. Mia gasped, digging her small hands into the dirt. "Mama, I can't!" Before Lisa could react, the very ground beneath them heaved. Roots burst upward, snaring Mia's legs, reminding them how small they truly were. "Mia!" Lisa lunged for her daughter, but a thick, sinewy root caught her wrist, jerking just enough to knock her off balance. She felt the darkness tugging, cold tendrils gripping at her ankles, desperation clawing at her throat. "Mama! Help!" Mia screamed, eyes wide with terror. "I'm coming!" She fought against the icy grip, feeling her strength faltering. Time warped again. The world blurred, shadows contorting into forms once recognizable, should-be loved ones turned horrific. "Mama, please! Don't let it take me!" The piercing screams roared back, echoing an unknown presence encroaching. "Stay with me!" Lisa cried, the last words choking on her tongue. Before she could make a move, the ground erupted, and they plunged into a crack opening beneath them, swallowing howls and shattered hope. She reached out, fingers brushing against Mia's hand, the darkness snapping around them like jaws closing in. But then came a flash of memory, a moment of unexpected warmth. Ignited within her. Follow the light, she thought, fighting against the abyss. We'll find each other again. As everything fell into shadow, a haunting whisper lingered in her ears, trailing through the darkness. Help us arrive. Lisa's mind spiraled, and the void embraced them. What lay between shadow and light? Would they find the sanctuary they desperately sought, or succumb to the echoing calls of loss that ripped through their souls? The world around them twisted and turned, a cacophony of despair. Lisa felt the grip of darkness tightening as they plummeted through the abyss, a cold certainty pressing against her heart. She reached for Mia, her small hands slipping away from her grasp, and then they were engulfed in black. With a sudden, blinding light, they fell into a clearing. Lisa blinked against the brightness, her senses scrambling to catch up with reality. The cold grip of fear receded, but a hollow echo remained. She pushed herself to her feet, desperately scanning the area for Mia. "Mia!" she screamed, cutting through the eerie silence. Panic surged. "Mama!" came a small voice ahead. Lisa's heart leaped, hope sparking anew. She raced toward the sound. The clearing was entirely unfamiliar, a vast, tranquil space bathed in moonlight. It felt like a hidden sanctuary, an oasis untouched by the madness they had just escaped. The trees no longer loomed as threats. Instead, they swayed gently, cradling an essence of warmth. "Mia!" she called again, running with renewed strength. "Mama!" Mia was standing there, heart-shaped face stained with tears but eyes alive with hope. Relief washed over Lisa as she snatched her daughter into her arms, holding her tightly, feeling the warmth solidify the bond between them. "Are you okay?" Lisa's voice trembled as she pulled back to examine Mia, brushing away dirt from her cheeks. "I was scared," Mia whispered, trembling in her mother's embrace. "Where's Emma?" The mention of her name sent a tremor through Lisa. The eerie calm pressed against them like a wall. "I don't know," she said, choking on the truth, feeling her heart sink. It was a void she couldn't fill. "But we have to find her." Just then, a low growl rumbled through the air, an echo lingering like a thread of what they had left behind. Dread coiled around Lisa's heart. They had crossed into a space that felt both sacred and cursed. "Stay close. We have to move," she urged, taking a step forward, determination igniting her spirit. The shadows receded but did not fade, lurking at the edges of their vision, whispering secrets that stung with fear. Just ahead, another flicker of light glimmered. Lisa took her daughter's hand, and together they began to move toward the light. Hope guided their footsteps, while fear clung snugly to the corners of their minds, coiling tighter with each passing heartbeat. As they approached, A familiar figure shimmered just beyond the glow, and Lisa's breath caught in her throat. "Emma?" she cried, pain and longing mixed into a single desperate gasp. Her daughter stood there, bathed in luminescence, her brighter-than-sunshine laughter beckoning. "Mama! I'm okay." Emma reached out, love wrapping around them with a warmth that filled the space. Lisa tore through the distance, pulling Nia alongside her. They reached Emma, the three enveloped in an embrace, years of love pouring forth like a fountain overflowing. Tears slid freely down Lisa's face as she cradled them both. It was a moment they would never trade, even with the threat still present. But there was a shift. The shadows writhed, tugging at the edges of their sanctuary. "You must go," the voice whispered, deep and resonant, as if it came from the forest itself. "You cannot stay here forever. They will come for you." "Who?" Lisa's voice broke into a hoarse whisper, her protective instincts flaring. "What do you want?" The shadows danced closer, their edges sharp, zealous for the warmth of their belonging. "Free us," they begged, echoes of the lost souls blending into one. The cries of the woods pulsed like a heartbeat. The darkness was a prison, holding countless lost souls yearning for release. "No!" Lisa shouted, pulling her daughters close. "I want to leave you." Then David's face flickered in the shadows, barely recognizable, lost. "I was taken, but you don't have to be. Save the girls. It's their only hope." His eyes swept over them, desperate. Time froze. Lisa felt the walls of her heart break anew. David's sacrifice hung heavy in the silence. Was this the truth? Was she meant to lose him again? The weight of choices throbbed in her veins. "Please, you can't take all of us," she choked out, every ounce of her being fighting back against despair. "We're not here to set you free." "Join us," they begged again, creeping closer, shadows flickering with eagerly fallen wishes. Their whispers clawed at the edges of her sanity. Lisa tightened her grip on her daughters. "We are not yours to take," she yelled, a fire bursting within her that she didn't know she had left. As if her words conjured something greater, the light around them pulsed violently, and the shadows recoiled, shrieking against the brightness as it enveloped them whole, lifting them off the ground. "No! Not again!" The dark voices echoed, a chorus of sorrow resounding through the trees. "Hold on!" Lisa yelled, clinging tighter to her girls as the light surged upward, pulling them from the forest's suffocating grasp. The shadows slithered back, and then, suddenly, the world dissolved into brilliant warmth. With a jolt, they landed on solid ground, the morning sun bursting beyond the horizon. The familiar chirp of birds floated through the air, and the scent of dawning warmth graced their cheeks. Lisa's heart pounded in disbelief. They were outside, free, but with a heavy loss lingering behind. "Mommy," Emma whispered, staring up at her, confusion apparent. "We made it," Lisa managed, a mixture of relief and sorrow threatening to overwhelm her. But inside, grief festered. The knowledge of what they had survived sat heavily, ready to consume. They had escaped, but the shadows still lurked. David's face swam in her memory, a bittersweet reminder that they had left so much behind. One step forward, one breath at a time. This was a new beginning rippling across a landscape of uncertainty. Lisa wrapped her daughters tight against her chest. They would find a way to heal together. They would stand against the darkness, a force of love pushing back against grief's icy caress. As they turned away from the woods, Lisa promised herself to keep remembering, to keep fighting. They were alive, and somehow, life would move forward, shadows mere remnants of a past that could never fully claim them. But she would always look back. And with that, the sun rose, casting rays of hope through the valley, illuminating the path ahead. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to ensure you don't miss the next gripping story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, and let us grow this community together. Flood the comments section with your reactions, thoughts, and theories about the ending. What do you think happened in the woods? And remember to instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this chilling conclusion. Your support means everything. Together, we'll keep revealing haunting tales,